And hello! Welcome to AHNC, All Hat No Cattle. I am Hat. Today we are reading the statement by FBI Director James B. Comey on the investigation of Secretary Hillary Clinton's use of a personal email system, otherwise known as the July 5th Memo or July 5th Statement. Excuse me. Yes, this is, I didn't bring my coffee in. I'll see if I can wing it. This is the one that pretty much sank James Comey in the eyes of the Democrats, of course, until he was fired by the President Donald J. Trump. Then he became a hero. That's how it goes with the Democrats. So what I'm going to try to do here is read this straight through with no interruptions, and then come back to spots where I feel I would like to add something, if that's the case. It's not very long, so this should only take us a few minutes. I would like... Well, hello, Ray. I'm sorry I didn't even notice you come in. I was busy doing my preamble. I'm not here. This is your conscious hat. We haven't spoken in a while, so get ready to have your mind expanded. I'm sorry, Ray. My mind is a bear trap that has been tripped years and years ago. The only thing that's going to expand it is a hydraulic jack. But I appreciate the thought. Thank you, Conscious, for showing up. And Picasso knows, of course, afternoon hat and Ray. Picasso knows is out of the studio at the moment, but she is with us in spirit. So hopefully we'll be able to get her excellent executive producer work from her remote location. All right, all of you that are here, you don't want to hear me babble, you want to hear me read. And here we go. I've already read the title. And this is, by the way, from the FBI.gov website. This is not Huffington Post or Breitbart. This is the source itself. I've linked it in the description, of course. Oh, yes, I've also linked a video of the press conference that was provided off of Anthony Brian Logan's channel. Someone who, if you're not subscribing to right now, you need to. That link will lead you to his channel, and hopefully you'll see fit to subscribe. Anthony's a good guy. Okay. This is James Comey. Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email system during her time as Secretary of State. After a tremendous amount of work over the last year, the FBI is completing its investigation and referring the case to the Department of Justice for a prosecutive decision. What I would like to do today is tell you three things: what we did, what we found, and what we are recommending to the Department of Justice. This will be an unusual statement in at least a couple ways. First, I'm going to include more detail about our process than I ordinarily would, because I think the American people deserve these details in a case of intense public interest. Second, I have not coordinated or reviewed this statement in any way with the Department of Justice or any other part of the government. They do not know what I'm about to say. I want to start by thanking the FBI employees who did remarkable work on this case. Once you have a better sense of how much we have done, you will understand why I am so grateful and proud of their efforts. First, what we have done. The investigation began as a referral from the intelligence community Inspector General in connection with Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email server during her time as Secretary of State. The referral focused on whether classified information was transmitted on that personal system. Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute making it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way, or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities. Excuse me. This may make it bad, but it's milk. Not good for keeping your mouth clean. Continuing. Consistent with our counterintelligence responsibilities, we have also investigated to determine whether there is evidence of computer intrusion in connection with the personal email server by any foreign power or other hostile actors. I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department, and used numerous mobile devices to view and send email on that personal domain. As new servers and equipment were employed, older servers were taken out of service, stored, and decommissioned in various ways. Piecing all of that back together to gain as full an understanding as possible of the ways in which the personal email was used for government work has been a painstaking undertaking requiring thousands of hours of effort. For example, when one of Secretary Clinton's original personal servers was decommissioned in 2013, the email software was removed. Doing that didn't remove the email content, but it was like removing the frame from a huge finished jigsaw puzzle and dumping the pieces on the floor. The effect was that millions of email fragments ended up unsorted in the server's unused, or slack, space. I don't think the word is slack. I think the word is, undedicated? Something like that. We searched through all of it to see what was there and what parts of the puzzle could be put back together. FBI investigators have also read all of the approximately 30,000 emails provided by Secretary Clinton to the State Department in December 2014. Where an email was assessed as possibly containing classified information, the FBI referred the email to any U.S. government agency that was likely an owner of information in the email, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify the email now, even if its content was not classified at the time it was sent. Parenthetically, that is the process sometimes referred to as upclassifying. From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information, which is the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were upclassified to make them confidential. The information in those had not been classified at the time the emails were sent. The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not in the group of the 30,000 that were returned by Secretary Clinton to State in 2014. We found those additional emails in a variety of ways. Some had been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on devices that supported or were connected to the private email domain. Others we found by reviewing the archived government email accounts of people who had been government employees at the time as Secretary Clinton, including high-ranking officials at other agencies, people with whom a Secretary of State might naturally correspond. This helped us recover work-related emails that were not among the 30,000 produced to State. Still others we recovered from the laborious review of the millions of email fragments dumped into the slack space of the server decommissioned in 2013. With respect to the thousands of emails we found that were not among those produced to State, agencies have concluded that 3 of those were classified at the time they were sent or received, 1 at the secret level, and 2 at the confidential level. There were no additional top secret emails found. Finally, none of those we found have since been upclassified. I should add here that we found no evidence that any of the additional work-related emails were intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them. Our assessment is that, like many email users, Secretary Clinton periodically deleted emails, or emails were purged from the system when devices were changed. Because she was not using a government account, or even a commercial account like Gmail, there was no archiving at all of her emails, so it is not surprising that we discovered emails that were not on Secretary Clinton's system in 2014 when she produced the 30,000 emails to the State Department. It could also be that some of the additional work-related emails we recovered were among those deleted as personal by Secretary Clinton's lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in 2014. The lawyers doing the sorting for Secretary Clinton in 2014 did not individually read the content of all her emails as we did for those available to us. Instead, they relied on header information and used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reportedly more than 60,000 total emails remaining on Secretary Clinton's personal system in 2014. It is highly likely their search terms missed some work-related emails, and that we later found them, for example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the Slack space of a server. It is also likely there were other work-related emails that they did not produce to State and that we did not find elsewhere, and that they are now gone because they deleted all the emails they did not return to State, and the lawyers cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery. We have conducted interviews and done technical examination to attempt to understand how that sorting was done by her attorneys. Although we do not have complete visibility because we are not able to fully reconstruct the electronic record of that sorting, we believe our investigation has been sufficient to give us reasonable confidence there was no intentional misconduct in connection with that sorting effort. And of course, in addition to our technical work, we interviewed many people, from those involved in setting up and maintaining the various iterations of Secretary Clinton's personal server, to staff members with whom she corresponded on email, to those involved in the email production to State, and finally, Secretary Clinton herself. Last, we have done extensive work to understand what indications there might be of compromise by hostile actors in connection with the personal email operation. That's what we have done. Now let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. For example, 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program level when they were sent and received. These chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails from others about the same matters. There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position, or in the position of those government employees with whom she was corresponding about these matters, should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation. In addition to this highly sensitive information, we also found information that was properly classified as secret by the U.S. intelligence community at the time it was discussed on email, that is, excluding the later upclassified emails. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, but their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff like those found at departments and agencies of the U.S. government, or even with a commercial service like Gmail. Excuse me. Separately, it is important to say something about the marking of classified information. Only a very small number of the emails containing classified information bore markings indicating the presence of classified information. But even if information is not marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it. While not the focus of our investigation, we also developed evidence that the security culture of the State Department in general, and with respect to the use of unclassified email systems in particular, was generally lacking in the kind of care for classified information found elsewhere in the government. With respect to potential computer intrusion by hostile actors, we did not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain, in its various configurations since 2009, was successfully hacked. But, given the nature of the system and of the actors potentially involved, we assess that we would be unlikely to see such direct evidence. We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account. We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside of the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. So that's what we found. Finally, with respect to our recommendation to the Department of Justice. In our system, let me turn this phone off. Okay. Thought I might get a message from Picasso Notes, so I left it on vibrate. Okay, back to the text. Let me just start that paragraph over. In our system, the prosecutors make the decisions about whether charges are appropriate based on evidence the FBI has helped collect. Although we don't normally make public our recommendations to the prosecutors, we frequently make recommendations and engage in productive conversations with prosecutors about what resolution may be appropriate given the evidence. In this case, given the importance of the matter, I think unusual transparency is in order. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Prosecutors necessarily weigh a number of factors before bringing charges. There are obvious considerations, like the strength of evidence, especially regarding intent. Responsible decisions also consider the context of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past. In looking back at our investigations into mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts. All the cases prosecuted involve some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information, or vast quantities of materials exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct, or indications of disloyalty to the United States, or efforts to obstruct justice. We do not see those things. To be clear, this is not to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences. To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions, but that is not what we are deciding now. As a result, although the Department of Justice makes final matters on like this, I really screwed that up. As a result, although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case. I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout this investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done completely, honestly, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear. I know there were many opinions expressed by people who were not a part of the investigation, including people in government, but none of that mattered to us. Opinions are irrelevant, and they were all uninformed by insight into our investigation because we did the investigation the right way. Only facts matter, and the FBI found them here in an entirely apolitical and professional way. I couldn't be prouder to be part of this organization. And there you have it. That was about, 15 minutes? And some people say it changed the entire outcome of the election. I'm not of that opinion, but I've never seen any numbers on how many votes this changed, but I'm sure it changed a few. Let's look at the chats that came in while I was reading. Ray says, Hat, did you look up them calling Comey the Cardinal? I did not, Ray. I'll be honest, I completely forgot about it. But I certainly take your word for it. I have no reason to doubt you. And Ray, it gives the term slacker a whole new meaning. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Someone whose space is, unallocated. That's the name, unallocated. Someone, the space in their brain is unallocated. And Ray, at the end there, in his beginning statement, he said he didn't find clear evidence. All the chain emails set off bells, as they absolutely did. And I'm going to change things up here. Instead of reading this over again and giving my commentary, what I'd like to do is play one of the videos I found. And I'll use that. So what I'm going to do is just very briefly go to the okay, here we go. Copy that. Okay. I'm going to mute this. And another ad. I'm going to skip that. Sorry, Anthony.
No charges filed against Hillary. At least he said that.
Sorry about that. I forgot to turn the desktop audio on.
FBI Director James Comey just had an impromptu press conference. Today is Tuesday, July 5th. The press conference started at about 11 a.m. sharp. And in the press conference, he spoke about the Hillary Clinton investigation. He said that there would be no charges filed against Hillary. At least he said that they could not recommend any charges or any kind of indictment to be levied against her due to lack of any evidence for a strong case. Now, he did say that there was some evidence of her sending classified emails from her private email server, but he also said that it was not enough to really make it stick as far as a trial is concerned. But he also said that the final say will go with the DOJ. Now, we all know what happens with the DOJ. You just saw Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton.
Okay, I'm going to forward past all the commentary here and get right to the press conference. Sorry about that. If I forget to turn off desktop audio, I get that echo. I have not figured out how to change the sound settings since OBS wet the bed. Let me just say that way. Well, that's great, Ray. I'm glad you're subbed to him. Excellent. But he deserves every sub he can get. Anyway, I'm sorry for the echo. And it's just a matter of my getting used to playing a video and then turning off the sound when I need to talk. It's going to take a little work because I haven't done this before. But let me fast forward to the actual press conference. Here we go. Okay, we'll get that last. There we go. So let me turn desktop audio back on.
So I won't talk too much anymore. I have the full press conference for you, so check it out. So after you check it out, let me know your comments and concerns. Do you think that this is just the way things are? This is Hillary Clinton. This is James Comey. This is the Clinton. Out the video.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email system during her time as Secretary of State. After a tremendous amount of work over the last year, the FBI is completing its investigation and referring the matter to the Department of Justice for a prosecutive decision. What I want to do today is three things. I want to tell you what we did, I want to tell you what we found, and I want to tell you what we're recommending to the Department of Justice. This is going to be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. First, I'm going to include more detail about our process than I ordinarily would, because I think the American people deserve those details in a case of intense public interest. And second, I have not coordinated this statement or reviewed it in any way with the Department of Justice or any other part of the government. They do not know what I'm about to say. But I want to start by thanking the FBI employees who did remarkable work in this case.
Okay, let me stop there. The DOJ or anyone else doesn't know what he's about to say. So that means he's taking it all upon himself. He's taking all the heat, he's taking all the weight, because what he says later, which we'll go over, basically says there's no way the DOJ is going to prosecute this. He makes it that way. So why? Because James Comey's an idiot. And he thinks he's the most important person on earth. Bad combination. No critical thought skills about what he does whatsoever. It's all in his gut. And his gut told him, I need to take this on myself because I am the paragon of virtue. I am the super patriot. I will save the DOJ by jumping on the grenade myself. What he didn't realize is that that would make him the target of a lot of vitriol and outright volcanic level hate from the Democratic side of the aisle. And the Republicans being mad at him too. The Democrats because he announced this, and the Republicans because he didn't find her worthy of prosecution, which they thought was a done deal. Especially with the leaks that came out by McCabe, by Page, over about the investigation. Okay, let's continue.
And why I am so grateful and so proud of their work. So first, what we have done. This investigation began as a referral from the Intelligence Community Inspector General in connection with Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email server during her time as Secretary of State. The referral focused on whether classified information was transmitted on that personal system. Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence that classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute that makes it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way.
I don't remember turning desktop audio off before I paused it, but it is off now. I'm wondering if it's connected with YouTube somehow. Anyway, what do we got here then? He found those emails on email chains originated from and sent to Hillary Clinton. He said as much in the investigation, and we've learned as much through the closed-door testimony by all of the people we've read so far who were associated, some very intimately, with the mid-year exam investigation. So where does he get off not charging her for that? Well, we'll find out.
Consistent with our counterintelligence responsibilities, we have also investigated to determine if there is evidence of computer intrusion by nation states or by hostile actors of any kind.
And we know that There's ample evidence that's come out recently that the Chinese had been monitoring her personal email domain for years. They had either hacked into her server or the entire domain itself, which I believe is one and the same. Because she was using the, what was it? Something like hrc.email, something like that. Completely against the law. Again, completely against the law. Somehow that didn't get brought up. That didn't get brought up. I don't know, maybe there's no statute against it. Well, there needs to be, certainly. And I don't remember one being introduced into Congress or the State Department coming up with something. If they have, please let me know. Chat or comments below. All right, let's continue.
Now, I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain. As new servers and equipment were employed, older servers were taken out of service, stored, and decommissioned in various ways. Piecing all of that back together to gain as full an understanding as possible of the ways in which personal email was used for government work has been a painstaking undertaking.
Okay, yes, painstaking undertaking, because she made it that way. She deliberately hid those emails. Why? Because they were illegal. Because not only were they classified, top secret, confidential, special access program, whatever, there were also, I'm convinced, and I don't think anyone could disabuse me of this knowledge, of this opinion, that she was using it for pay-to-play discussions as well. Like the Uranium One deal. People will say she's not the only one who gave the authorization for the Uranium One deal. She put it together with Obama. And you may not know this, but someone delivered a sample of the uranium to the Russians so the Russians could gauge whether or not it was worth their effort to buy that 20% interest, 20% of the inventory of the possible mining of uranium here in the U.S., if it was worthwhile for them to do it, if it was good enough. You know who delivered that email sample? Robert Mueller III. Yes. So that's why it was also hard to get a hold of James. And I will make one note here. Notice how completely calm and coordinated he is, how easily he's giving off this address. He practiced this a lot. And maybe he practiced it more maybe he practiced it more than in just the day he basically had between the Clinton email interview and his reading this to the public. This thing was baked in weeks ago. Weeks before this press conference, I should say. Before they interviewed Clinton. Let me give Anthony a like here real fast. There we go. Okay, let's continue. Audio on.
Requiring thousands of hours of effort. For example, when one of Secretary Clinton's servers was decommissioned in 2013, the email software was removed. That didn't remove the email content, but it was like removing the frame from a huge unfinished jigsaw puzzle and then dumping all the pieces on the floor. The effect was that millions of email fragments ended up in the server's unused or slack space. We searched through all of it to understand what was there and what parts of the puzzle we could put back together again. FBI investigators also read all of the approximately 30,000 emails that Secretary Clinton provided to the State Department in 2014. Where an email was assessed as possibly containing classified information, the FBI referred that email to any government agency that might be an owner of that information, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify it now, even if the content had not been classified when it was first sent or received. And that's the process sometimes referred to as up-classifying.
Yes, up-classifying. People have gone to jail for holding on to documents that were unclassified when they had them, but were up-classified later. There's a particular case I've mentioned before about a former CIA employee who had some, at the time, unclassified or declassified documents in his possession at his home. They were up-classified later, and he was arrested, charged with possession of classified documents outside of his scope of employment or whatever. I don't know what the law was specifically, but they rung him up because he had these up-classified documents in his possession, and he went to jail. One of these days, I'm going to have to get the exact citation for that case. And in fact, I'll make a point to, let me put it in the chat. That's my notepad. Let's see, okay. Arrested for up-classified documents. Okay, so I'll look that up and put it in the description for this. She has obviously broken a number of laws. She has sent and received classified email on an unsecure system. We'll get to why he didn't in a second.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
What more do you need? Really, what more do you need? You got it right there. Sorry. Oops, I screwed up. Cat hit my hand. Let's see here.
Folks with whom a Secretary of State might normally correspond or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level.
Cat. She turned on captions.
That was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received.
And as I just said, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter in one slight iota. So now we've gone from 110 to 2,110 classified documents on her server in her email chains sent and received by her and State Department employees and her personal assistant, Uma, and no repercussions. Here we go.
The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to state in 2014.
So there you have the fact that she has not turned over everything, even though she said she did. Oh, I've scrubbed all of the yoga emails from my list, and so now here are all of my work-related emails. Promise. Actually, it's promise behind your back. And she wasn't charged with obstruction of justice. That was never even brought up. Go figure.
We found those emails in a variety of ways. Some had been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on servers or devices that have been connected to the private email domain. Others we found by reviewing the archived government accounts of people who'd been government employees at the same time as Secretary Clinton, including high-ranking officials at other agencies, folks with whom a Secretary of State might normally correspond.
Obama had her email address and emails from her private server on his computer in the White House when they went searching for it. I give them a lot of credit for going to the White House, to checking on it, and they found some. Were they classified or not? That I don't remember. I don't believe so. That would have been interesting. But he certainly did have her email address on his computer at the White House.
This helped us recover work-related emails that were not among the 30,000 that were produced to state. Still others we recovered from that painstaking review of the millions of email fragments dumped into the slack space of the server that was decommissioned in 2013. With respect to the thousands of emails we found that were not among those produced to the State Department, agencies have concluded that 3 of those were classified at the time they were sent or received, 1 at the secret level and 2 at the confidential level.
And that shows you right there that when you do a clean by just searches for particular headers, particular words, you're still going to miss stuff. She decided she couldn't afford to have people go through those emails one by one and delete them accordingly. She had to just do it in batches. But she didn't pay for it, so it worked out to her benefit anyway.
There were no additional top-secret emails found, and finally, none of those we found have since been upclassified. I should add here that we found no evidence that any of the additional work-related emails were intentionally deleted.
There it is. Not intentionally deleted. She yanked the software from a previous server, thereby dumping, as you said, millions of fragments of emails onto the unallocated space. Those were State Department emails, at least a portion of them. And by making them virtually irretrievable, she broke the Federal Records Retention Act. I may not be using that word or that term exactly correctly, that act correctly, but that's what it is. It is an act that covers all government employees, that specifically states any business that you do has to be done on a government-approved system. so that if there are FOIA requests, well, in theory, people can access the emails that come and go, except, of course, for Congress. They're exempt. They're also exempt from Obamacare. They're also exempt from slander. If they speak on the floor, they can say anything about anybody, like Harry Reid announcing on the floor of the Senate during the 2012 election that Mitt Romney did not pay his taxes, which was a total lie. But it could very well have helped to cost Romney the election. Romney did a lot of stuff to cost himself the election, don't get me wrong. But Harry Reid was asked about that later, if he had any regrets. And his comment was, he didn't win, did he?
In an effort to conceal them in some way. Our assessment is that, like many email users, Secretary Clinton periodically deleted emails, or emails were purged from her system when devices were changed.
See previous comment.
Because she was not using a government account, or even a commercial account like Gmail, there was no archiving at all of her emails. So it's not surprising that we discovered emails that were not on Secretary Clinton's system in 2014 when she produced those 30,000 some emails to state. It could also be that some of the additional work-related emails that we've recovered were among those deleted as personal by her lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in late 2014.
Sorry, I killed the audio first. I'll back it up. Yeah, so how is that not obstruction of justice? How?
Some of the additional work-related emails that we've recovered were among those deleted as personal by her lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in late 2014. The lawyers doing the sorting for Secretary Clinton in 2014 did not individually read the content of all of her emails as we did for those available to us. Instead, they relied on header information, and they used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reportedly more than 60,000 that were remaining on her system at the end of 2014. It's highly likely that their search missed some work-related emails and that we later found them, for example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the Slack space of a server.
So again, they tried to hide evidence. They tried to delete work-related emails, but the FBI found some anyway. Does that sound like a unbiased culling of non-work-related emails? No. No, it doesn't.
Instead, they relied on header information.
Back that up just a little bit. I was almost there.
Of all of her emails, as we did for those available to us. Instead, they relied on header information, and they used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reportedly more than 60,000 that were remaining on her system at the end of 2014. It's highly likely that their search missed some work-related emails and that we later found them, for example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the Slack space of a server. It's also likely that there are other work-related emails that they did not produce to state and that we did not find elsewhere and that are now gone because they deleted all emails they did not produce to state, and the lawyers then cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery.
I'll say it once again. How is that not obstruction of justice? If they had said, if the lawyers had said, if the server admins had said, we're going to take the stuff that we don't think is covered by work-related process, that we don't think she used as part of her duties as Secretary of State, we're going to call that and we're going to put it over here. And then, if there are any questions, we'll have those available so we can go through that process, whatever that process is. Some compulsory search process or a negotiated search process, whichever. But no, they deleted them. They bleach bit them, and then they destroyed devices that they supposedly had given them all the information from. Bashed them with a hammer. Or hammers, I don't know. How is that not obstruction of justice? And again, that never came up. You're going to have to excuse me for just a moment. I've got to get that coffee. I'm out of milk and my mouth is completely dry. I'll be right back. Okay. Another unpaid advertisement. I am not sponsored by these people, but in this Yeti right here, which I actually prefer, I think it's called Covert or Kodak, something like that. It's a different brand of insulated product that works extremely well and is like half the cost of Yeti. I'll put the name of it in the description before I post the video. But yeah, Ray Kimbrell says, who determined what or wasn't work-related? Names, I want Strzok's name. As I understand it, Ray, it was her lawyers who determined what was work or not work-related, except in the case of her bathroom server, where 30,000 emails that just happened to be non-work related were bleach bit off of her server due to scheduled maintenance, even though it had never been done before at that time. As I understand it, the server maintainer who did that process was brought into the FBI and was interviewed 3 separate times. The first day, he got a queen for a day dispensation, which means everything that you tell the FBI during that time, you cannot be charged with unless you lie. And he lied. They knew he lied, so they brought him in for a second interview. He lied again. They brought him in for a third interview, and they said, look, you've been telling us lies all along. Come clean. And he came clean. And then they gave him immunity. He lied to the FBI on at least 2 separate, or I should say during at least 2 separate interviews. They knew he lied. And I'm not saying he only lied once in one and once in the other. I don't know for a fact, but he could well have lied multiple times during those interviews. Did he get brought up on charges of lying to the FBI? Like Papadopoulos and Flynn? And Vanderswan? Did he get arrested and thrown in jail in shackles like Papadopoulos did? Nope. Nope, he walked scot-free. FBI, he's okay. Pure as the driven snow. Nothing to see here. Who was that? Let me get to the end of the video, Ray, and I'll try to look it up. But if you want to do a search yourself, I would just put in Clinton email server maintainer or something. Here, you know what? Let's just real quickly. Let me try. Clinton email server main. Let's go with maintenance. Okay, it's going to be in one of these. It may, in fact, be in the wiki article at the top. I don't know how extensive it is. I haven't read it, but I would start there and work through it. I don't have the time to do all that. I don't want to waste all of your time for me searching for that. But I would start there, Ray. I'd start with the wiki article. Okay, let's get back to Lion James. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. Let's get back to Lion James Comey. Picasso Nose comes through in a clutch. Paul Combata with Platte River. And if you don't remember, Platte River was one of the data farms that Hillary was using to store her data on a separate server away from her own physical server. I believe it's a cloud service. And Combata lied and lied over and over again. Got immunity. Thank you again, Picasso Nose. You are top end. Okay, back to Lion James Comey.
We have conducted interviews and done technical examination to attempt to understand exactly how that sorting was done by her attorneys. Although we don't have complete visibility because we're not able to fully reconstruct the electronic record of that sorting, we believe our investigation has been sufficient to give us reasonable confidence there was no intentional misconduct in connection with that sorting effort.
No intentional conduct. Seriously. If they called emails and you still found work-related emails, I'm confused now. I've just confused myself about where the work-related emails were and weren't. But, as we've said over and over again, 18 U.S.C. 793F talks about gross negligence in the handling of classified information. How is this not gross negligence? How is this not obstruction of justice? And remember, there's nothing in that statute that uses the word intent anywhere. I believe it says it in 793E or A, but not in F, which is what they were told they were going to charge Clinton under. They're told by the DOJ, this is what you're going to use. And by the way, you have to find intent, which was a complete misreading of the law.
And of course, in addition to our technical work, we interviewed many people, from those involved in setting up the personal email system and maintaining the various iterations of Secretary Clinton's server, to staff members with whom she corresponded on email, to those involved in the email production to state, and finally, Secretary Clinton herself. Last, we have done extensive work to try to understand what indications there might be of compromise by hostile actors in connection with that personal email system. So that's what we've done. Now let me tell you what we found.
Quick comment on the hostile actors. Yeah, dyslexia. It's always a. I saw here. Ray, you got my funny bone going as always. I saw this on a bumper sticker while driving on the tri-state tollway the other day. Okay, let's see. Uh, for those of you who are just listening, the bumper sticker said, "Dyslexics are deeple too." Um, of course, replacing the D in dyslexics with a. Oh, I got it wrong. It should be a P at the front, not a T. I'm so sorry. Dyslexics are deeple too. Or it was dyslexics are deeple. No, dyslexics are people poo. That might have been what it is. Dyslexics are people poo. Either way, it is. Let me just put that in there. I believe that's actually what it was. Dyslexics are people poo. Made me laugh out loud. I couldn't get a picture of it. The other thing I saw that day, real quickly, I know Picasso knows, moving along. I just got to say this one thing. I saw a bumper sticker in the back of a Prius, and it said, "Cool Prius," quote unquote. Quotation attributed to, had the dash, which means attributed to. It said, "Nobody." And I really appreciated the fact that someone driving a Prius would put that in their Prius. I thought that was very self-aware and very funny. Got a laugh out of that too. I did get a picture of it though. Showed it to Picasso Knows. She loved it. Okay, back to James Comey and his comedy jokes.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
Boom. There you have it. Extremely careless. The phrase that has driven people crazy during this entire investigation. It was inserted in the document that Comey's reading sometime probably in late May of 2016. That's very good, right? Dyslexics are deeple who. I like that as well. But anyway, so yes, the memo was started in May before they'd interviewed another 12 people, including Clinton, and they took gross negligence out, or grossly negligent, whichever, out, which had been in the first paragraph. And some people say, and I believe them, that Ray Strzok lobbied very hard and ultimately got the others to acquiesce to change gross negligence out and move extreme carelessness up from the second paragraph and replace gross negligence. And they got away with it. Comey said it right here. Extremely careless. Or extreme carelessness. I always get that mixed up. Doesn't matter. I mean, there's your smoking gun right there that the FBI let the DOJ push them around, put their boot on the FBI's neck and said, "You will find intent." And they probably made them add extreme carelessness to the first draft of the memo, knowing that after time it would replace gross negligence. I'm sure of it.
For example, 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received. Those chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails about those same matters. There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
But, get ready, folks. Here comes a big but, as Pee Wee Herman would say.
In addition to this highly sensitive information, we also found information that was properly classified as secret by the U.S. intelligence community at the time it was discussed on email. That is, excluding any later up-classified emails. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, but their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff like those found at agencies and departments of the United States government, or even with a commercial email service like Gmail. I think it's also important to say something about the marking of classified information. Only a very small number of the emails here containing classified information bore markings that indicated the presence of classified information. But even if information is not marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it. And while not the focus of our investigation, we also developed evidence that the security culture of the State Department, in general, and with respect to the use of unclassified systems in particular, was generally lacking in the kind of care for classified information that's found elsewhere in the U.S. government.
Okay, obviously I threw that butt out there too early. It is coming, of course. We all know that. But anyway, putting it aside for a second, what he's talking about is the fact that the State Department's communication systems, electronic communication systems, are woefully inadequate for the volume of electronic communications they produce each day. Their systems are ancient. They're basically, as I understand it, not even upgradable. They need an entirely new system brought in. I could be wrong on that, but that's my understanding. So here's the thing. How do you take the State Department offline long enough to transfer to a brand new system? How long would that take? Well, an IT guy is going to tell you it takes, let's just say, 24 hours, which means it'll take 72. And then after the rollout, they're going to have to squash bugs for another however long. And I just don't think the State Department's willing to go through that. Also, I don't think they've been able to get the money. So here's the thing. What do? If you can't get your important communication from, say, a embassy to your handler in D.C., because all these State Department people are spooks. You figure out a way around it. You may use an encrypted message system. I know there are a couple out there whose names I honestly don't remember because I never used them, but there are encrypted services out there. And they could be doing that. They could be using the phone, which may or may not be secure, et cetera, et cetera. What the State Department has done is a lot of people use personal email to communicate back and forth. They're supposed to then archive those emails on the government system so that they can be searched and released under FOIA requests later on. Again, in theory, It's real hard to get FOIA out of the State Department and the FBI and the DOJ. Yeah, so the State Department is rife with people breaking the rules about using private systems, but none of them set up a private server. And then when asked to produce emails from those servers, servers, not just servers. I never knew that before today. They erase tens of thousands of emails on those servers and say, oh, you didn't need to see those. Those were something else. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Ray Kimbrell. Comey said in the hearing to HRC that C could be missed or mean nothing. Yeah, and the C, of course, in parentheses, being the confidential marking that was seen on several documents. Hillary's answer, I thought, was better, though. Excuse me. Hillary's, oh, by the way, Black Rifle Coffee. That's what's in here, Black Rifle Coffee. Run by veterans, and 5% of all proceeds go to veterans' causes. Great people, great coffee. Look into it. Black Rifle Coffee. Non-PC is all get out and great coffee. It comes in both ground to your specifications and Keurig cups. So anyway, Ray said, Cummings said in the hearing to HRC that C could be missed or mean nothing. Hillary said that she thought the C was a lettering, whatever, of the paragraphs in the document. I don't know if anyone asked her why she thought that when there was no A or B or D or E preceding or following that C. If that came up, she gave some kind of a Tillery-hypical answer. There's your dyslexia for the day. A Tillery-hypical answer. Oh, that's right, Ray. I know about your various things. Yeah, I'm sorry that you can't drink coffee. I have a number of friends because of acid reflux who can't drink coffee, or the caffeine affects them too much, things like that. None of them are vets, though. I have to say that, so I can't speak directly to that. But yeah, well, Ray, tell your friends about Black Rifle Coffee. Grab them at Starbucks, throw them out the door, and show them the website to Black Rifle Coffee. I think it's better. All right. Back to James Comey.
With respect to potential computer intrusion by hostile actors, we did not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain, in its various configurations since 2009, was hacked successfully. But given the nature of the system and of the actors potentially involved, we assess we would be unlikely to see such direct evidence. We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account.
Okay. Same thing, isn't it? If they've infiltrated their systems, they can easily backtrack that domain to Hillary. Not that hard. I couldn't do it, of course. I don't know anyone I talked to who could do it. But with the sophistication that the Chinese, the Iranians, the Russians, and some friendly governments, because, let's be fair, Israel has spied on us, and we have spied on Israel. Obama did that. Obama also interfered in the previous to this election of Netanyahu, because he didn't like Netanyahu and didn't want to see him in office. So we directly interfered in that Israeli presidential election. Or is he prime minister? I think he's prime minister, actually. But yeah, we did that. So there is some espionage going back and forth between these two countries, these allies. Um, so why wouldn't Britain or Germany get in on it too? Germany, of course, being a country that we directly spied on as well. Obama tapped Merkel's phone. No scandals in the Obama administration, though. No scandals. That one doesn't get brought up. Wow, it doesn't get brought up often enough. Back to line, James Comey.
We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
You know, I don't remember the NSA being brought into this conversation at all. Any of the testimony that we've read, the NSA's never been brought up. Why not? They would have had access to her domain. They would have been able to read and receive all of her emails. Why didn't that happen? I mean, and especially here when they're talking about her using unsecured devices in sophisticated foreign countries. Something that she was warned about twice by the State Department. Not to use her BlackBerry. To use a State Department approved device instead. And she said, I need my BlackBerry for convenience. Again, too stupid to learn, according to her, how to use a government-approved device because she'd used her BlackBerry for so long. Too stupid to charge. And Ray says, IP addresses will always lead back to owner, even if changed. Thank you, Ray. That was my understanding, but I couldn't put it into words and I wasn't sure. But you laid that out for me perfectly. Thank you.
So that's what we found. Finally, with respect to our recommendation to the Department of Justice. In our system, the prosecutors make the decisions about whether charges are appropriate based on evidence that the FBI helps collect. Although we don't normally make public our recommendations to the prosecutors, we frequently make recommendations and engage in productive conversations with prosecutors about what resolution may be appropriate given the evidence.
Then why are you doing this, James? They said that they couldn't charge Hillary under 793F because it hadn't been used before, or at least not in 99 years, as far back as they could search. So a law that's a good law that no one has challenged in court isn't used because it's too old and never been used before. Like that makes any sense. So here's James saying, we've never done this before, but I'm doing it now. I'm not saying they're directly correlated, they're directly linkable. It could be straw manning here, but seems to me that the same kind of precedent could be used as a parallel. And again, we don't talk to I didn't talk to the prosecutors. I didn't talk to anybody before I made the statement. And now he's talking about how we work well with prosecutors and we talk to them about charging. He could be admitting that they had already made up their mind a month ago, 2 months ago, that they weren't going to charge Hillary. And so this is just pro forma. Let's see. I don't know, but I got suspicions.
In this case, given the importance of the matter, I think unusual transparency is in order. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
There you go. It wasn't a but, it was an although. Perfectly understandable given the legal situation. Oh, wait, no. It makes no sense whatsoever. And there's that other famous line, no reasonable prosecutor. Does that mean there are unreasonable prosecutors at the DOJ who would have taken the case? That's a very loaded phrase. He could have just said, this is not something the DOJ would want to take on. This is not something the DOJ would normally prosecute. This is not something the DOJ would want to do. Something like that. But no, he says no reasonable prosecutor. Makes no sense.
Prosecutors necessarily weigh a number of factors before deciding whether to bring charges. There are obvious considerations like the strength of the evidence, especially regarding intent.
There it is, especially regarding intent. Intent doesn't matter, James. Not in the statute. You were sold a bill of goods by the DOJ, and you bought it hook, line, and sinker. And again, they told him he couldn't do anything. But he made it. I don't know if he's absolutely stupid, nefarious. Just what? He's James Comey. He's an enigma. He's the world's most patriotic idiot, I guess. Whatever you want to say.
Responsible decisions also consider the context of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past.
Similar situations. Find me an instance in the last 100 years where someone set up a private server in their bathroom after having multiple servers before that and dumping the evidence. Just because no one did it before doesn't mean you can't charge them now. It was like the Democrats screaming about hitting James with the Hatch Act after he had done this press conference. And if not this one, the October 28th one, I don't remember which. But they were screaming to prosecute him under the Hatch Act. Do you know how many times people have been prosecuted under the Hatch Act? Next to zero. So why doesn't that same reasoning apply there?
In looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts. All the cases prosecuted involved some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information, or vast quantities of information exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct, or indications of disloyalty to the United States, or efforts to obstruct justice.
Sorry, I stopped him in mid-sentence, but my blood was boiling. How can you can't... I'm so angry right now. All of those applied to Clinton. All of them. And he's saying these didn't happen through her. She wasn't guilty of these things. She didn't exhibit this behavior, which is a complete line of crap. Pardon the language, kids. And he's up there saying this with a straight face. I'd have been doubled over in laughter every time I said those words. Every time my finger went up with another one, I'd have been laughing my head off.
We do not see those things here. To be clear, this is not to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences.
Okay, so now, if someone did it, they would be able to charge them. I thought the law was such that it hadn't been used in so long that you couldn't charge someone under it. Now you're saying you can, if they're not Hillary, is what you're saying. He's laying it all out there that they gave her a walk. I'm sorry, gave her a pass, let her walk. I combined those two aphorisms, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what he did. Let her walk. And he's saying so, that he let her walk because she's Hillary. He just isn't using her name in this sentence.
To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions, but that's not what we're deciding now. As a result, although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case.
That is a completely inappropriate statement. It is not up to the FBI to determine whether or not a case should be prosecuted. Like he said, that's DOJ. The FBI investigates, turns over the data, turns over the 302s, turns over the physical evidence, and says, here's what we've got. They may say, we think we've got a case. They may say, we think we don't have a case. But they do not tell the DOJ, don't prosecute this or prosecute this. It's not the FBI's job. Yet Comey took it upon himself, because he's an idiot and a narcissist, to take the whole shebang and run it. This is why the Democrats wanted him fired so badly. And then once he was fired, why they anointed him a saint. I know, it makes no sense. That's what the Democrats do. I'm not saying all Democrats. I'm not saying every one of them. There are a lot of middle-of-the-road Democrats who accept both of these incidents with equanimity and aplomb. But not the ones you hear about, the screaming minority. I hope they're the minority. I'm woeful for our country if they're not.
I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout the investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear.
Okay, no outside influence was brought to bear. So Trump's tweets and the Democrats' Resolution 902, those had nothing to do with it. So all these questions by the Democrats and the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight and Reform Committee and these interviews I'm reading that we're listening to didn't matter. The FBI just kept chugging along. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you, James. Thank you for completely refuting everything the Democrats in those committees have been saying for the last, how long have I been reading these? If you include my time off, 4 months? Thanks, James. And no outside influence. Does that mean DOJ? No, because DOJ is part of the Department of Justice, just like the FBI. So that's not an outside influence. So he's being quite surreptitious there.
I know there were many opinions expressed by people who are not part of the investigation, including people in government, but none of that mattered to us. Opinions are irrelevant, and they were all uninformed by insight into our investigation because we did our investigation the right way.
Uninformed? After the leaks that you guys put out, I'd say some people were pretty well informed. And again, he said in government, so he means Trump. He means Congress. They didn't bother them. Thanks, James. Thanks again.
Only facts matter. And the FBI found them here in an entirely apolitical and professional way. I couldn't be prouder to be part of this organization. Thank you very much.
Director Comey.
And there you have it. Sorry, there we go. There you have it. He couldn't be prouder to be a part of that organization. Well, hang on, James, because you're not going to be a part of it for more than another 10 months or 9 months. Because of your bungling, because of your refusal to follow protocol, including your insubordination with the DOJ and Loretta Lynch in particular. Now, I know there's some confusion as to whether or not Rod Rosenstein wrote his letter recommending that Comey be fired before or after Comey was fired. I don't have an opinion on that one way or another. It doesn't matter. President Donald J. Trump had every right to fire Comey as a subordinate member in the executive branch. Article 2 of the Constitution gives the president that ability, basically that right. So talk of obstruction is meaningless, just meaningless. So Ray brought up earlier, Juan Williams said the uranium deal was done before HRC became Secretary of State. That's not the way I understand it. Let's do a quick look here. Uranium 1. There we go. Let's look at the wiki. No, let's look at factcheck.org. Yeah, what the heck? Well, let's look at fact check. June 8th, 2010. All right. Oops. Hillary served from 2009 to 2013. She was, in fact, Secretary of State when Uranium 1 went down. Juan Williams. I respect Juan Williams. He's done a lot of great reporting over the years. I used to listen to him all the time on NPR. But he has become a left-wing hack. I applaud Fox for putting him on The Five, which is on 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Friday on Fox. It's worth a watch. I think it can be very informative and very entertaining. Picasso loves it. But one can be infuriating. Ray Kimbrell, comes up with a great line here. When HRC ran for the Senate, she won with 96% of the vote. No one has ever won with that high of a vote, not even Obama. Well, that's definitely true. Definitely true. I mean, Nixon took all but one state in the 1972 election, and he did not have a 96% vote total. So not even Obama, and she did nothing. Absolutely. Here I am, I'm Hillary Clinton. She was supposed to win to take all eyes off idiot Comey. Now, I'm not so sure about that because she was secretary, I think even before Comey was director. Senator. But I'm not sure about that. So you may be right. I can't refute that. And I trust Ray implicitly, so there's no reason for me to even try. But that's just, the timeline isn't solid in my head. That's the only reason I brought it up. But yes, Comey was a complete idiot, and I'm sure there was something going on at the time that he would have been accountable for if that's the case. We do know that Mueller had to go in front of the FISA committee and take a lot of abuse because of his agents lying to the FISA court. Oh, President. Right. There you go. I get you now. I got you. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Good for you. So I'll read that with Ray's correction. When HRC ran for the presidency and won with 96% of the vote, no one had ever won that with that high of a vote, not even Obama, and she did nothing. She was supposed to win to take all eyes off of idiot Comey. Absolutely right. I got you. But anyway, under Robert Mueller, FBI agents were lying left and right to get FISA warrants on U.S. citizens and surveil them. And I think it was an IG investigation into it, pulled up all kinds of irregularities, all kinds of flat-out lies. And Mueller was called on the carpet. And that was part of the reason that the Woods file was invented, if I'm not mistaken. But Mueller was told that he had to institute reforms and guidelines and security protocols in order to keep this from happening again. They gave him direct orders to clean it up. And as we can see by what we know about the FISA that was issued in September, or was it October, of 2016 against Carter Page, and again, I'm sure about the one that was issued against George Papadopoulos probably a year before that. We're going to find out there were even more irregularities than what we already know about. But again, that IG report may have been delayed another 2 or 3 weeks, but we'll be here when it comes out. And again, if I'm out of town, I'll have my laptop with me, and I'll do a very basic tin can live stream and get it done. All right. I think we're done. If no one has any more questions or comments, I think this went pretty well. Longer than I had expected it to, but I hope you like the format. I hope you enjoy the text and then the video. Again, I came up with that at the last minute, so I hope it worked for you. I enjoyed it. So we will be back here Monday at 10 p.m. Whoa, 10 a.m. I have no idea why I said that. 10 a.m. and we will be reading William Sweeney. And that'll only take a day. It's 114 pages. And remember, William Sweeney was the director, the special agent in charge at the New York field office when the Wiener laptop came in. Thank you, Ray. Yes, in the can. Good show. Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate that. And you, of course, made it that way. You add a lot of value to the show, Ray, and I really appreciate it. Picasso knows as well, of course. You guys are great. But we'll be reading Sweeney. And remember, Sweeney was instrumental, in my opinion, in getting the Wiener laptop exposed to the executive offices at Washington, the executive offices of the FBI, because his people told them, after sitting on that Wiener laptop for a month and not doing anything, that if they didn't get off their butts and start processing it, they were going to go public, because they didn't want to be made to look like it was their fault that nothing was getting done. They didn't want the heat to be directed to them when it had no reason to be. So that's that. So it ought to be good. Now, Tuesday, just to give you the updates, Tuesday is Sally Moyer. Now, Sally was the chief legal officer. Sally was Department of Justice, I believe, under, I believe, Yates. She was with close to Loretta Lynch. And Sally could be a very interesting read, because they're going to talk to her, I'm sure, about 793F and the intent part of that statute. I'm sure the Republicans are going to hammer home on that. I guess, but I'm pretty sure. And then everyone's favorite on Wednesday, Loretta Lynch. Yes, folks, they got Loretta Lynch in front of a closed-door committee. And that I can do in a day. It's 191 pages. Probably take about till 4:35 o'clock, but we'll get it done. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun week. It's going to be a short week, because again, we'll be done on Wednesday. And I don't have anything after that at this point. Collins hasn't released anything else that I'm aware of. And again, if the IG report comes out at that time, great, but we don't know. So the site may be closed for a little while, maybe dead, unless I dig something up, which I hope to do. I don't want to let things just go dark for weeks at a time. All right, folks. Thank you so much for being here. Ray, Picasso knows, all of you listening, all of you who are watching this after it posts to YouTube, I very much appreciate your help. If you can, remember to hit the like button. I know these videos do not get any publication by YouTube at all. It's just you guys knowing about it that gets it out there. So if you have the opportunity to share it with someone, that would be a big help. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not, blasting this out there because I'm, a self-promoter. If you want to do it, that would be great. Thank you. I'll see you all Monday morning, 10 o'clock. Until then, be well. God bless. Happy trails. Bye-bye.
I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny